For Comedy Hype News, I'm Terrence Sims. Since the beginning of time, there has been the dynamic of the ladies' man. We know this type of man has been the prototypical, womanizing, lying, and manipulative player type who never thinks of settling down with one woman, and normally only uses women for sexual satisfaction. In contemporary Western patriarchal culture, this ideal is normally celebrated by a certain population of men who view this behavior as strong display of masculinity and manhood. A lot of men even engage in the misogynistic practice of keeping score of the amount of ladies they slept with as some sort of friendly competition with their other male counterparts, like some sort of sport. We all know the single uncles with the infamous little black book full of women he used for his own desires back in the day. There are plenty of names for this type of man, from player, playboy, ladies' man, pimp, Mac, etc. The prevalence of this type of man in the real life inspired many of the same types of men that became popular in some of our cultural media pieces. From audio to television to movies, the archetype of the Mac or ladies' man has continued to spread all throughout the culture. The ladies' man is the constant flirt, as they are usually after one thing and one thing only: sex. That is their life. When it comes to the film and television, the qualities that make up a ladies' man are aggressive, assertive, persistent, and bold. While they usually have a confident exterior, insecurity, and an underlying lack of self-worth, which is why they need sex to fill a void inside of them. This is what makes the ladies' man a complex being, seemingly altogether on the outside, but an empty vessel on the inside. While they may appear to be smooth and suave when going after one or what they want, they can actually be narcissistic and conceited, but still somehow maintaining a level of charm when they're doing it. A great example of this type of representation would be Bill Bellamy's character of Dre in the cult classic Def Jam's How to Be a Player. The entire plot of the film focuses on the dynamic of Dre aiming to literally sleep with as many women as possible with no real motivation other than just his own egotistical and selfish sexual wants. In the film, he has a girlfriend whom he's constantly cheating on, which infuriates his sister and leads her to form a plan to get her brother to change his player ways. In the film, Dre's sneaky and deceptive ways are highlighted when he somehow escapes a tense situation in which he could have gotten caught, but he escapes. Eventually, Dre's player ways catch up with him in the end, but his sneakiness and deception are key consistent qualities that we see in all these types of men. This ain't surprising, seeing as you need these qualities in order to maintain this double life that so many people pull off. Another popular example of a womanizer ladies' man in our culture is Martin Lawrence's character, A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. In this film, Martin plays Darnell Wright, another playboy type who works for a nightclub called Chocolate City, in which he exchanges VIP access, club perks for sexual favors from women, and a wannabe chauvinistic favor. This particular type of situation is very common in nightlife culture, as there are many stories of women having financial come-ups dealing with these type of men in these positions. Though Darnell has strong womanizing tendencies and parades around as if he doesn't care what women think about his doings, he quietly worries about what his childhood sweetheart, Mia, played by Regina King, thinks of his playboy ways. This is important because it suggests that some men conform to womanizing behavior as the default for when they are single and cannot have the girlfriend they want, mainly because they are socialized to think that's how men are supposed to be naturally. Darnell ends up meeting a high-value woman in Brandy Webb, played by Lynn Whitfield. Darnell aggressively pursues Brandy, buying her flowers and showing up to her job, before she finally caves in and agrees to go out with him. Darnell refused to take no for an answer when he was initially rejected by Brandy, but did whatever it took to win her affection, not stopping at anything to achieve his goal of sleeping with Brandy. The subtle difference even between Darnell and Dre's similar womanizing behavior seems to be that one is doing it because he wants to for his selfish reasons, while the other seems content with being a one-woman man, but performs womanizing behavior as emotional compensation due to the disappointment of not having the one woman he wanted. The difference between these two men is defined in an article by Alan and Roger Curry entitled "For Things to Know About Womanizers," where one type is defined as a cheater, which he defines as not being a ladies' man, which would be Dre, and the other is defined as actual player because he is single, referencing Martin Lawrence's character Darnell. Curry states, "I distinguish players from cheaters because players have multiple female sex partners and they are upfront and honest with women about the desire to be sexually satisfied by more than one woman. Beware the infamous friends with benefits arrangement." This type of womanizer does not try to hide, deny, or camouflage the fact that monogamy is just not his thing. I always appreciate men who are honest with women about their promiscuous desires. Cheaters interact sexually with multiple women under false pretenses. They present a facade of wanting to be involved in a long-term, monogamous relationship with one woman, but deep down they want variety in their sex lives. Eddie Murphy's iconic character of Marcus Graham in the classic film Boomerang is another example of the womanizer ladies' man. Like others on this list, Marcus embodies confidence, smoothness, and a sense of suave in order to seduce any woman he wants. Marcus will go to any lengths to get the woman he wants, even if it includes lying. Early in the movie, Marcus lies about having a dog just to get a woman's attention. In the film, Marcus is largely defined by how he treats and views women and by the fact that he objectifies women by reducing their value down to their body parts. Generally, the ladies' man archetype can be very shallow and superficial, which are traits Marcus exhibits. In this instance, Marcus is not interested in talking to any woman who does not meet his standard of having nice feet, something which his friend in the film criticized him about. However, Marcus' womanizing ways go haywire as he actually develops feelings for one of his mistresses, Jacqueline, who ironically becomes to treat him like he is just as disposable as many of the women he viewed the same way. She started using him purely for own sexual enjoyment and showed no interest in developing a genuine connection despite Marcus's feelings. Marcus became the topic of jokes and gossip at his workplace and was affected by her treatment so much that his productivity at work suffered. Boomerang shows that while womanizers exist in media, the manizers also had a role too. Jacqueline gave Marcus a nice taste of his own medicine and perhaps gave him perspective on how his womanizing ways were indeed incorrect. The opposite dynamics of this situation exposed that no matter what men are told about catching feelings for women, they too, just like any other human, are subject to becoming emotionally attached despite efforts to refuse. When Tim Meadows was a cast member on Saturday Night Live, one of his most popular characters was Leon Phelps, otherwise known as the Ladies' Man. The sketch ended up getting its own feature film in 2000. In the film, Phelps is a radio broadcaster who gives romantic advice and love-making tips. Phelps is fired from his job as a broadcaster. Meanwhile, a group of angry husbands and boyfriends plot to kill the ladies' man due to their women cheating with Phelps. While on the radio, Phelps would use his expertise to help callers with the problems they encountered when it came to the opposite sex. Phelps' advice was always rooted in his knowledge of how to seduce a woman. A glass of Courvoisier was always on the list. In the film and SNL sketches, Phelps exhibited extreme confidence. He was smooth and suave. As a baby, Leon Phelps was left on the front steps of a Playboy-like mansion and was taken in by the master of the house, who, according to the film's narrator, surrounded by the world's most beautiful objects. Being exposed to sex at such a young age is what caused Leon to end up as a ladies' man. The ladies' man doesn't see women or even sometimes themselves as people. Sexual objectification is a common trait among the typical ladies' man, as they don't see women or even sometimes themselves as people. Objectifying women for their own sexual desires allows the ladies' man to operate without taking women's feelings into account. This is how the ladies' man moves swiftly from one conquest to the next. How can you hurt feelings when you don't think she has any in the first place? These four characters all represent the classic, chauvinistic, misogynistic, player-type men that many men aspire to be and most women despise to ever meet. There may be different specific situational motivations behind each man who engage in this dynamic, but a common reason that all men who engage in this is because they believe that womanizing women is a part of what a real man is supposed to do and measure a lot of their manhood based on how many women they can sleep with and or dominate and control in some way. Many men spend most of their days chasing sex at the notion that if they aren't pressed about women or sex, then something must be wrong with them. Additionally, the ideal of catching feelings or becoming emotionally attached to a woman was also deemed as simpish and not player. Another common trait that these men share is the type of women they find the most desirable. In the cases of both Eddie and Bill's character, they both battle between the vixen type of woman and the girl next door type of woman. The vixen's use of their sexual energy lures men just because of the possibility of sex, and she carries herself as having a superpower to control men with her top-notch sex game. The girl next door, on the other hand, is the conservative type, normally not interested in sex right away and looking for a deeper emotional connection. The conflicts these men have is not necessarily with the types of women, but with themselves, as their masculinity norms say they should favor the vixen, while their human feelings of wanting genuine emotional connections are ignored because, as previously stated, any emotional attachment was seen as less manly and perhaps even scary. Honest womanizers should admit that they just want to have fun without commitment, but they should let it be known they have no intentions of having a serious relationship from the get-go as to not hurt any feelings. This is because the thought of being attached terrifies them. He told me he had already dated 40 girls and had not found what he was looking for. Why would I only sleep with one when I could sleep with many? Numerous studies show that when married men have affairs, they are often emotionally and non-sexual. Generally, it's immaturity that causes a man to be a womanizer. A lot of women agree that immaturity plays a big role in a womanizer's mindset, as sexual promiscuity is typically associated with your younger ages. From a humanistic standpoint, there are substantially more women than men, which over time created situations where high-value men were hotly pursued by large pockets of women, somewhat contributing to the player dynamic we see today. Additionally, according to the aforementioned article, the fact that men also tend to die earlier than women because of war and other conflicts led to a general shortage of subtle men and men in general. This resulted in any young, available, and virile man being exceptionally attractive to women, which comprises the basic instincts many of us have today. Aside from evolutionary biological aspect, many men are simply sleeping with women not for communal or higher purpose, but as I previously mentioned, to fulfill some sort of idea of adequate manhood and masculinity curated by dominant Western patriarchal society. The male ego has become attached to all of this and is also a big driving force behind why many men continue to view women in this way. A lot of men have been socialized to think that their ego and worth is attached to how many women he can sleep with, reducing women to objects instead of human beings in the process. Aside from the reasons previously mentioned to explain the way of thinking for men en masse, there are other strong possible contributing factors when it comes to black men specifically. The womanizing male ladies man is the type of man many of us will meet in our lifetime. It's a popular choice of masculine expression based on old, sexist, and misogynistic societies, human behaviors, and dynamics. The imposition of this misogynistic behavior around the world remains the reason why it is a global phenomenon. A global phenomenon, as the actual fundamental reasoning behind misogyny in general is still something that has yet to be fully discovered. Although today's climate surrounding sex relations is better, womanization and misogyny are still highly prevalent in mainstream media, from TV, movies, and music. While there is no doubt that we love the characters and content that Bill, Eddie, Martin, and Leon contributed, with these roles, their selfish and objective view of the women is a dynamic that needs to be expunged from the larger society and replaced with their refined, appreciative relationship to women. Women have more social and political power combined with men taking on new progressive ideas are sure to hopefully make this a reality sooner than later. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel, follow Comedy Hype across all social media, and look out for our original content on our new streaming service at comedyhype.com.